Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Should Have Recorded That with Phil and
Adam.
Hey, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm tired, Phil. How are you?
I'm tired too. I think most of everybody is tired.
I think that today, Friday, November 6th, 2020, is a year of a day, a week in a year of general fatigue.
Yes. Yeah, I decided to try a different workout, and I was telling my fellow teachers, like, this was the wrong week to try a new workout.
Yes, it was. That was a poor life choice. This is the year. Why do I keep saying year? This is the week that you just choose carbs over activity. Or at least that's been my strategy.
Okay.
I, on Wednesday, came home and for dinner, loyal listeners to this podcast will know about my really elevated tastes, like having bear bites with peanut butter for dinner. But on Wednesday, I really did. I had triple crème cheese. I just say it that way to sound pretentious. I think most people always say triple cream.
Okay.
Cheese is a soft French cheese, and I got out some crackers, and I ate the entire block of cheese.
Wow.
It's a comfort food kind of week. Comfort food necessary.
Yeah. I get that. But before we get into more of our conversation this week, let's share with people how they can interact with us.
Absolutely.
So everyone, if you're feeling like us, and that's okay if you are, you can talk with us about it.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Wasertwapa. You can also find us on YouTube by the name of our podcast. Do you have any comments or listener?
No, none in written form. All I have is that I saw our guest / number one fan at church this past Sunday, and she informed me that she did, with her daughter Katie, listen to the episode in which she was featured. And Katie may or may not have rolled her eyes when I called Michelle a celebrity.
That sounds like something a daughter would do, you know,
Yes.
about their mother.
So anyway, that's always good. We really appreciate all of the guests who have joined us for our conversations. But today, we're flying we can't say we're flying solo if it's two of us. We're flying duet.
I mean, we're solo, we're the
core co-host team.
Yeah. So yeah, we could be solo.
Well, Phil, I believe our topic for this week is one of the major reasons that we are feeling so tired. And what is that?
The 2020 election, and I guess the presidential election. So primarily.
Yes, I'm not really feeling fatigued from the rest of the races. You know, I did you vote early or did you vote on election day, Phil?
I voted early. Yeah.
Okay. So I waited to vote until election day. It was very smooth and very easy. But before I went to the poll, of course, I wanted to be educated. So I used vote411.org. It's actually a tool from the League of Women Voters. And it was great. I got to see my entire ballot, read the candidates' position statements. And there are positions that one does not really perhaps have a clear idea of what the job is that you are electing a person to, like county clerk,
Right.
or, New York State appellate judge. So it was very helpful to educate myself using that tool, and I got a little voter guide with the candidates that I selected, and I went prepared to the poll.
Well, that's good. I did the same thing. The newspaper, one of the newspapers in this area, releases information on each of the candidates and the different races, and so yeah, I read through those before I went to make my decision. So yeah,
Yep.
it's good to do.
But I have to say, county clerk and New York State appellate judge have not exhausted me in the way that the race at the top of the ticket did.
Right. So do you want to start?
Continues to. Do I want to start?
Yes.
I think that we should absolutely expect what is happening now, the delay in the vote. If the election were close, which it absolutely turns out to have been, we were warned for months to expect this because of the speed or lack thereof of counting mail-in ballots.
Right.
So that part, I wish that it had not been so close. I wish that whomever rises victorious would have more of a mandate for governance over this nation. And instead, this election has revealed that our fault lines are even deeper than at least I realized. And yeah, so since it wasn't close, which I think I would have preferred if it had been, a more just obvious win by one or the other. Well, I mean, I know who I voted for, but I wish it had been a more obvious win by the person I voted for. And then we wouldn't have had to wait. Second scenario is, okay, it's a close election. We knew we were going to have to wait. And so that, I think I was mentally, emotionally prepared for that. What I was not prepared for, and maybe we can talk later about whether the way I've let this consume me is indicative of some spiritual or emotional lack of health, some sickness. What I was not prepared for was for both it to take so long and for half of my social media to blow up with people who baselessly claim that this is evidence of fraud and cheating. And I think even more sad that all of those people who have blown up my social media with such completely baseless claims are simply parroting the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, whose maturity is that of an infant. And that is oh gosh. I really want... I'm sorry for talking so long, Phil. I really want to get to your perspective, and I don't want us to take too long today because I think everyone is electioned out. But, I really want to say that I've been consistent politically in my life. of course, my views have changed on certain issues. Of course, I continue to evolve. But I really do. I don't think I'm being self-delusional. I really do think I've been consistent in the measures by which I evaluate a candidate for public office. And therefore, I do feel like I can fairly, honestly say that I would feel this way about the president's behavior whether I voted for him or not. I do not think whether I was a supporter or a detractor of President Trump, his behavior since election night, calling into question our democratic process, completely nonsensically calling for the ballots to continue to be counted in states where he is losing and for counting to stop in states where he is winning, his just vitriol, his rhetoric is dangerous. The American people deserve to have confidence in their election system unless you can demonstrably prove that there has been fraud. You cannot just, without any information, inflame the baser instincts of people. And so what he is doing is irresponsible, it is dangerous, it is false, it is untrue. Last night, did you catch his press conference last night, Phil?
Some of it. To kind of,
I was watching on ABC, and when he came on, and they cut away, 5-10 minutes in, because he was standing up there and lying. And I welcome evidence of fraud. I welcome evidence of cheating. Issue your lawsuits and bring evidence to court. Because you know what? The judge doesn't care what you tweet. The judge doesn't care what you say. The judge is going to examine the evidence. So I welcome it. But keep your hole shut until the judge has ruled. Because all you're doing is flaming the fans of violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. This is raw. This is real. Yes. I hope none of my students listen to this.
Well, let me ask you a question. Because I think we can support people and still disagree with them on certain points. Mm-hmm. But at what point do you say what this person is doing is so egregious that it's not just enough for me to try to correct them as a supporter? I can't be their supporter anymore.
Well, yes. I mean... I'm just trying to... We have had 5 years of his antics.
At least.
Well, yes, since he, became a politician, since he began running for office. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you remember in October 2016 when the Access Hollywood tapes came out?
Oh, yes, I do remember.
Yes, I mean... And then, just how many instances on a daily basis does it take until people say enough?
Yeah.
And I just... Yes, so is this the line in the sand? I hope so, but I've hoped that 1,000 times in the past, and it's never turned out to be right. The one difference here, Phil, the one thing that might give me just a shade of a glimmer of hope more than those 1,000 previous instances. People, especially people in power, smell the scent of losing on this loser president. And there's nothing that inspires people to abandon ship more than smelling a sore loser. So that's the only thing that stands between our democracy and him taking down half the country in flames while he himself sinks.
Right. I think I agree with you. Most of the Republicans are kind of being more tepid with their responses. My problem, and then maybe we can kind of go in another direction. My problem is that's very convenient, though, right? It's very convenient at the point where it looks like he's gonna lose for you to not be as pro-Trump, because he's losing, instead of being principled and saying whether he was winning or losing, or whether it was going to cost me an election or not, that this is not right. And I say that as someone who's not having to make these decisions. I mean, I give them that.
Gosh, though, Phil, I mean, the heart is exceedingly wicked, and so perhaps I should not overestimate my own integrity. But, I pray to God that if I were in any kind of position of power, I would stand up for what is right.
Yeah, I pray the same thing for myself. Yes. I pray the same thing. I pray the same thing, and I hope that I hope that at least in these instances we are able to kind of just, it really is kind of a testing of metal in a smaller sense, because again, it's not costing us an election, but to be able to kind of reflect on what other people are dealing with. I'm hoping that I do have the courage when it costs me something to stand against it, when it costs me something, because that's the thing. One of the things, I guess we can move on. One of the things I think is probably
wait, you haven't told me about why you're so tired.
Oh, well, I mean,
Phil, I really got very real and raw there, and I've tried to betray my political leanings less this cycle than I did back in 2016. And I think I have been successful at that, although I've obviously, I've made some comments at times. So I really just, told people how it was, even though there's a segment of this is going out into the public, and the American public, the global public, all of our adoring fans, they do not, I don't necessarily want them to know my political views, but I guess from my very, very tiny, very short platform of power here on the Wusert platform, I have stood by integrity and stood for what is right, which is counting every vote. All right. So I want you to be similarly vulnerable, because I am out here on the edge of this diving board all by myself, brother.
Okay. Well, I'm with you. I want every vote counted. Since if you want me to step out there, one of the things that I really wanted us to, one of the things I've been thinking about is this I call it kind of a euphemism. We call it election integrity. And I'm really wondering, is it voter suppression? A lot of the things, we talked last time when we, in one of the episodes, You Don't Know What You Don't Know, about the rules around absentee ballots. And are they so onerous that it's really meant to keep people from voting versus making sure that votes are legitimate.
Yes. Yes.
And I think my concern is that, the problem is that the same people who are saying stop the count, we only want to count votes on election day, have created the rules that we have that put a lot of these states in the places where they're in. In Florida, they were actually preparing the mail-in ballots as they came in, so that on election night it was just running it through a machine. They were already prepped, already processed,
Yes.
and
Which is why we knew Florida so much sooner.
right, which is why they're not still counting
Right.
days later, and that's not even really the issue, because it's really it's just like most things in the United States. It is commercialized, and it is to we want it's more commercialized. Like news television companies, they can sell ads by saying we are going to call this election tonight, versus the process. You're counting ballots, so it may not all happen tonight.
No, I mean, I get it. I have had CNN open in the background tab on my browser,
Yes.
both at home and at work, since Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I mean, me too. I was, I joined you for the watch party, and I think I just laid down on the bed back here and just it was still going.
Yes.
I had to get up and turn it up. I mean, we're into it, and so like I'm critical. I critique even as I admit that I am being I'm a part of it. But so like that's the biggest thing. One of my biggest thought, like, is there like where is the line between election integrity, which we all want? We want eligible voters to vote, versus you're trying to stop people from voting. And one of the amendments in Florida was all about this one word. So the First Amendment on the ballot was they wanted to change every citizen of the United States and a resident can vote to only citizens and residents of Florida can vote. And I'm just, and again, just that idea though. It's a idea of if you're eligible, come on, you're able. But no, versus let me check your paperwork. Hold on, don't go through the door until I let you come in. That type of like, and I'm just, it is that. Like I said, I think that's more of just an ideological shift of like how do we really what are we really valuing in our elections? But so like that was just one of the things I've been thinking about. Are we really trying to make these elections free, fair, and open? Or I've
No,
said it
Phil.
before. Okay, no, right? That's the answer.
No, I mean, we should, right? We should want every citizen of the United States to vote.
We should.
We should remove as many barriers to that process as possible while still ensuring the integrity of our elections.
Yeah.
And believe me, like, there are some people who do not think well that I do not want, like, me personally, I do not want those individuals voting. Like, they are drains on the system, or they believe in QAnon. Like, all right, there are some people who I'm just like, I'm a little insulted that they get the same vote that I do. Oh, I'm so bad. But my larger commitment is to the principle at the very bedrock of our republic, and that is one person, one vote.
So you know what I mean. I was listening to some stories on that, and the whole idea we dealt with this in 2016. The whole idea of the electoral college.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I mean, we would be done. Like we.
Yes. The whole country is waiting with bated breath right now to see if the candidate who is leading by 4 million votes will actually win.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
I'm torn. I am torn. There is an argument to be made for the Electoral College because I think that it does force leaders at the national level, presidential candidates, to address the needs and concerns of Americans in the so-called heartland. Without the Electoral College, I think presidential candidates would go to the coasts and Texas, and everyone else
state.
would be ignored. So I'm trying to be reasonable. I try to see every side of the argument. But the Electoral College is broken when so many presidential candidates in recent history have lost the popular vote and won the presidency. If President Trump wins the presidency this year, it will be just an absurd number, an absurd amount of this country, over 1% of the population, not of the voters, but of the population, who said, no, we want the other guy.
Right. Yeah. One of the other things that I've been thinking about is along with just allowing people to vote, the idea of making your case and let the best case win. And again, that's a principle that I remember hearing on a lot of conservative talk stations and even Christian talk stations. We are a country of ideas, and the best ideas always rise to the top. And again, if that is true, why are we trying to suppress votes? Why are we not just really trying to make the case for your idea, and then trust that the voters will see the validity of your argument?
Yes. But sadly, that's not where we are.
Yeah. I mean, but we, like, as regular people, we have to do that. Like, I mean,
Yes.
we have to do these things. We just can't say the things. It's unfathomable that a person could say some of the things and do some of the things that our president has done, and is leading this country.
Yes. He has lived his life without consequences.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how he has gotten away with it, why. But
Can I say? I mean, it's because he's a white male. Like, that's
because he's a white male. Yes, well, a rich white male.
Yeah, I just add that.
Yes.
A rich white male.
I'd
Yeah.
like to think that I have a little bit more responsibility and a little bit more accountability in my life.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, I've been really disheartened by people who don't want to see reason. I said earlier that I want to see evidence. If I don't want voter fraud.
Yeah.
I don't, this is the United States. This is democracy. If Jesus wants to be our president, if he comes back to the earth and wants to be our president, Jesus is king. So first of all, this is a horrible analogy because Jesus is king. That this is the new heavens and the new earth will be a theocracy. Okay, but I'm just saying, hypothetical situation.
Okay.
Jesus comes back not riding on the clouds with a Trump, but instead he just tiptoes in and is I've decided to run for president. If Jesus lost the election, I would say, well, Jesus, you decided to play by our rules for this game, so you need to go home.
Oh, man.
So I don't want fraud. If there's fraud, bring it in a lawsuit. If there's fraud, just be an adult, right? If there's fraud, be an adult, have it adjudicated in court. Fine, we'll prolong the election. We will still have election results in a week or 2 weeks. Let it play out in the courts, but don't burn down the system in the process.
Yeah.
So that's why that's my point of view. I have not seen any evidence of voter fraud. I believe in the integrity of our elections, and so I therefore will believe that until given evidence that there is voter fraud, it's the innocent before proven guilty mantra that lies at the foundation of our judicial system. Okay.
Right.
The president and his less thoughtful supporters do not seem interested in evidence. They do not seem interested. They will believe anything he tells them. I can't tell you, and I should not do it. Again, this is a symptom of a spiritual or emotional sickness. But I don't make a lot of pronouncements on Facebook, but I have been commenting on some things, and just seeing things that are posted, and social media companies are getting a little bit better at giving warning labels to things that are blatantly false. But they can't catch everything right away. And so if I see something posted, I will just quickly Google it. This is all it takes. This is all it takes. Dear audience, this is my plea, my one request. Don't share a link on social media until you've done two things. Only two things. 2 easy steps. 1, Google the item and see if it is corroborated by any other news source. If it isn't, hit pause. 2, whatever source you are sharing, go to mediabiasfactcheck.com and type in the name of this publication. And on the factual reporting scale, if it is not high or very high, ignore it. I trust people to weed out bias. I trust people to read unbiased. I read center-right and center-left publications. Maybe this is hubris, but I believe that I am intelligent enough to recognize bias in the sources that I read. But I am not intelligent enough to separate fact from fiction. And people are sharing just things that, 1, are not corroborated, and 2, are from sources that are propaganda mills. And I'm just, it's irresponsible. And, I don't think that what I just said, I don't think steps 1 and 2 are something you need a PhD to do. I just think it's being a responsible citizen in the 21st century in our information economy.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, and even if you have read whatever it is you're sharing, first ask yourself that, I mean, like, do I even need to do those 2 steps? Like,
Yes.
like, and just walk away. Like, do I need to even do those 2 steps and walk away? I mean, we said we didn't want to go too long. I have maybe 1, 2 things that I think we can make into 2 to maybe end us quickly here.
Okay.
We realized that it was not a landslide, right? Like that. I mean, because that's what we were hoping for. Joe Biden would do so.
Were you hoping, Phil? Are you finally allowing your political stripes to show?
I mean, I'm allowing what, not so much my political stripes. Because I really believe we are, as Christians, we are pilgrims. But where I am as far as this election as went, I guess I just did my political stripes show. But it wasn't a landslide for the particular party that was trying to beat another particular party.
Because only one of them was trying to win.
Right? Yes, because only one of them was trying to win. But you know what I mean. The one who did not control it. Huh?
I do, but does our audience?
Oh, yeah, so it wasn't a landslide for the Democrats, right?
Okay.
And the other thing I was thinking about it, like you were saying, but I just wonder if, I'm just trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Like,
yes.
Why? Why? Why wasn't this a complete, repudiation of everything that we see?
There is, okay, speaking of news sources, not something that I shared publicly because I think it's too incendiary. And I can anticipate already the reactions of people about the horrified that I would read a left of center publication like The Atlantic, which is very high on the factual reporting scale, by the way. But there was an op-ed in The Atlantic called "Half the Country Just Voted for a Sociopath." And I do recommend it. I do recommend it here for our audience. Hopefully our audience, is smaller. And we're buried, 38 minutes into the podcast.
Right.
Hopefully, anyone who's not really committed to hearing what we have to say won't hear that. But, yes. And I guess back to what I was saying earlier. What does it take? 4 years of division and strife and tweet storming and just norm-busting daily headlines that just are embarrassing. The complete crumbling of our alliances around the world, the complete laughingstock we have become to our allies, just a pandemic that we've handled worse than any other place on Earth, an economy in utter shambles, and half the country still said, yeah, I want 4 more years of that.
Yeah. So the question to that kind of statement, well, I asked the question, but what I'm more concerned about is how do we find unity?
I don't know if we do if the president is not going to be an adult. We need the president to say what Mitt Romney, John McCain, John Kerry, Al Gore, all the way back, all of the losing presidential candidates have given the nation and their supporters the goodbye present that they so desperately need. And that is a message of peace, reconciliation, unity, and support for the new commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
I don't think Donald Trump is capable. I don't think he's capable of saying, I lost, fair and square, I'm a loser, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, is now the president, and we owe him our support.
Yeah.
Can I make one quick comment before we go to our final segment?
Yes,
We're
go
probably
ahead.
not going to do current events corner since this whole episode was a current events corner. It was a
Yeah.
current events house, not a current events corner. Speaking of the losing candidates in the recent past, I think there's a deep sickness in the United States. Again, one person, one vote. I do believe in that. But it is deeply distressing to me that people, eligible voters, who could not be motivated to get off their rear ends and get themselves to the polls in 2008 and 2012. I assume these people are Republicans, so I'm going to assume they're voting for the Republican candidate because they are voting for Donald Trump. So in 2016, they come out in record numbers, first-time voters who'd never voted before. And we're not talking young people. We're not talking their first-time voters because they're 19 years old. No. We're talking about people who've never engaged in the political system before. And then even more of them this year in 2020. They couldn't get off their rear ends and vote for the Republican candidate in 2008 or 2012. Let's go back to 2008 just because, again, I'm not saying anything about his opponent, but John McCain was an incredible specimen of humanity, a war hero, an independent thinker, someone who truly loved this country, someone who had sacrificed so immensely for this country, who served his constituents so nobly, who was committed to the truth, who was committed to democratic norms, who wanted to work across the aisle, who had pragmatic vision. He chose Sarah Palin, so he wasn't perfect. But he was truly an incredible man. And he did not excite those people who stayed home, but who would get off their rear ends and go to the polls and vote for someone like Donald Trump. I think that is indicative of a deep illness in this nation. If there are people who would sit out the political process when men of honor and dignity and honesty and intelligence and fairness, like John McCain and Mitt Romney, were on the ballot, but would show up for, forgive me, a lying sociopath. A lying, narcissistic, self-centered, self-absorbed...
Take a breath. I'm gonna stop you. Take a breath. I've been thinking about that as well, and we're it's about to be a full length podcast in a minute. But what is it like what, where is the line? Because as you're saying, there's people of honor, not wanting to say certain things. Although you commented on Joe Biden in the first debate did kind of cross the line in your opinion,
yes, in my opinion
on that.
Yes.
But where is the line? Where is the line between being a honorable person versus just being, too polite. Maybe not telling it as much as it is, telling it like it is, like you should maybe. You know what I'm saying? Because I wonder if Donald. I mean, I think it's like a two. I'm saying this. It's a two. There's a two-part problem here. I think we have a lack of education in our electorate. Like most people don't understand how this work, how the system works. But then, like, are you really like? Are the politicians really caring about the needs of every voter? Because I was thinking to myself, like, I mean, like you said, even with the Electoral College, there are some states who will never see a candidate, who will have never seen a candidate, and so
Yes.
I'm wondering to myself, like,
well,
I
you
do.
know what? I'm just going to. I'm sorry. I'm way too emotionally worked up right now. I'm just, what 80% of white evangelicals who voted for Donald Trump and like that he tells it as it is, like you just said, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Apostle Paul told us, live in harmony with one another.
Uh-huh.
Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Associate with the lowly. Maybe seek to better the position of the lowly. Maybe that has something to do with the entire rest of Scripture that talks about serving the poor, the orphan, the widow, and the refugee. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going. Romans 12. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. So I'd much rather have someone who keeps his flap shut than tells it like it is.
I understand. I understand. I'm just kind of, I guess I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. But should we
I'm sorry. And I'm so guilty, right? Listen to me. My flap is not shut. My flap is just a flapping.
I mean this, but that's the important part of grace, and that's why we we're having this conversation. It's a conversation, and people, we could be a part of it.
I mean, my one consolation is that it's a podcast and people expect us to talk.
Right. Well, yeah. Yes, we should be talking.
And I really, again, I really. I'm going to end on this. There's so many other things I could say. There's so many. I want to talk about voter suppression. I want to talk about voter ID laws. I want to talk about how whatever you perceive as bias in the liberal media does not mean it is all fake news. I want to talk about the fact that being a supporter does not mean you're automatically good, and being a detractor does not mean you're automatically bad. Okay, there's so much I want to talk about. Not going to talk about it. Just going to mention it. I think I've got it out of my system sufficiently to move on. But what I do, I've lost it.
Okay.
I've lost it. Oh, okay. No, I've not. I remember how earlier in the podcast I said that I really think I've been consistent. And maybe I was wrong as a child. Maybe I was brainwashed when I thought that Bill Clinton should have been impeached and removed from office. But I've just been consistent, exactly like the editorial board of Christianity Today, who said when Trump was impeached earlier this year, like, we said this, we advocated for Clinton to be removed from office, and either we were wrong then or we need to advocate for Trump to be removed from office now. And they advocated for him to be removed from office since his crimes were even more egregious than Clinton's, obviously. So I really have tried to be consistent. I have not given any politician a pass. I have not liked anyone. I mean, for all of the praise I just heaped on John McCain, I am sure that if he'd been in office, I would have been sorely disappointed with him and just would have been his number one critic. So what I'm about to say, I say out of a true desire to be fair, and whether I achieve it or not, I really am trying.
Mm-hmm.
I was rooting for President Trump to do well. When he won this office, I was really rooting for him to prove himself competent. I was really rooting for him to prove himself capable. I was really rooting for him to prove that he had sound judgment. I was really rooting for him to prove himself compassionate towards those in need. I was really rooting for him to prove that he could behave, let's not even say in a presidential manner. I don't think my expectations are there anymore. I think he's destroyed that expectation for all time. I just want him to behave like a human adult. My hopes were dashed. My hopes were continually disappointed for 4 years. I don't want someone who's going to tell it like it is. I want someone who's going to live peaceably with all. Romans 12:18.
So, I think I don't want to take us on too much longer. But yeah.
I'm feeling really guilty. I monopolized way too much of this conversation.
Okay. I mean, you know, like I
had some coffee this afternoon. Could you tell?
You did. I mean, I understand. You have a lot on your mind. You have a lot. If we really wanted to, we probably could talk for 2 hours. Like we probably could just
easily.
keep going.
I mean, we will not
keep going.
Subject our dear audience to that.
But I want to end on 2 notes really quick. I really do feel what you're saying. My thing. I remember something I did want to say. Is that I feel like Donald Trump, and I said this before, I shared this on the live, that Donald Trump has taken the veneer off of something that a lot of people have maybe been saying and seeing in certain policies of the Republican and even the Democratic parties. Right. I mean, some people feel like Joe Biden really did not fully answer for the crime bills that he supported in the 80s and 90s. But I really feel like Donald Trump, he's taking away the facade of some of those things and really taking away the facade, hidden the thing that was always there. You know, the evil that was always there, and my prayer is that one, and this I'm really so thankful that I've come to understand is that we preach the gospel because all of us need Jesus. And as you're saying, for your struggles, for my struggles, for those who disagree with us, because we're close, pretty much on the same side here. All of us need Jesus. All of us need grace. All of us need to know that we are forgiven, and that ultimately, no politician,
Right.
No legislation, no protection for our job or whatever. None of that is going to save us and matter in the end.
Yes.
We really need Jesus. And so I just maybe a black grandmother would say, you need Jesus.
Yes, I do. We all do.
We all need Jesus. And the other thing is that it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. In the grand scheme,
yes.
it's going to be okay.
When America, John Piper wrote this in his election blog post that got him in so much trouble with the Trumpsters. When America is but a footnote in celestial history. Dear audience, our citizenship is not here.
Yeah.
We are sojourners in a foreign land.
Yes.
Whether Donald Trump defies the will of the people and is reelected, whether Joe Biden is in office, both will lead us further on the path to destruction. I just believe one of them will lead us there more slowly.
Well, I mean, we definitely are ultimately looking forward to the day where we are in that theocracy, and that where our just, our mighty, our gracious King is ruling.
Where all of the op-eds will simply be praising his name.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
What a future is promised to us.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, Phil, actually, I'm feeling that we don't need to pretend to do final segments. We've done a whole episode on current events, and I've learned a lot from you, and you've tolerated a lot from me, and so maybe we should say bye for now.
Adios.